a balance, amen, between the secular and the sacred, amen. This is the secular, but guess what? We need that information. It's very important because a lot of times we run into situations where we don't have questions, answers to the questions, and here we can find out, amen. So I want to thank God for Judge Staci Williams. Let's give God some praise for her. Come on, put your hands together. So I'm going to let her loose. Amen. I'm going to introduce to some and present to others Judge Staci Williams, Civil Court 101. Amen.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. How are you? It's a nice sunny day, and I'm really excited, not only because we are in the church, and I want to thank Pastor and the Pleasant Grove Ministerial Alliance for actually helping to sponsor this event, because, you know, when the church is involved, then the church members know that this is something important. So I thank you all very much. And when I was getting dressed this morning, I said, you know what, I really want to get happy. I think I'm going to have the Holy Ghost in me, because this is the beginning of the 5th year of the Citizen Civil Academy, and I'm very excited. We've graduated over 300 graduates of the Citizen Civil Academy. We had students as young as 6, as seasoned as 92, and we even have some repeat students. We've got a student who was here in Highland Hills, a student in the back. How many times have you been with the Citizen Civil Academy? 3 times? Grauweiler, she was in my initial class in the fall of 2015 when we were at the actual courthouse. And those of you all come on in, get your snacks. This is going to be interactive. This is a program for you. So if you have a question at any time, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Ask the question, because when you walk out those doors, I want you to feel empowered and that you've gotten more information. So I was going to just tell you quickly where all we've been. We started off at the courthouse, then we took it to the Highland Hills Library. We've been to the let me think. Well, we'll find it. You can look on the internet, but just suffice it to say, we've been all over Dallas County. We hadn't been to Pleasant Grove, so it is an absolute pleasure to be here. So when you got in, you signed in, please make sure you sign in. I think most of you registered from our website, but if you didn't, please make sure we have your address, because we will be mailing to you your certificate of completion. So if you registered on Eventbrite, I do not have your address. If someone, like we had a couple of people who registered for 3 or 4 people, you 3 or 4 people, we need to have your address if you want a certificate, because it's a very nice certificate of completion. You can write it on the back of the sign-in sheets. Again, we've got coffee and pastries. Please feel free to get up. There are restrooms in the front of the entrance to my right, to your left. So let's quickly go over what you have. Let's make sure you have all the paperwork. First is what we call the information packet. It's a thick one with the red, white, and blue CCA logo. Next you have the terminology sheet. We're going to be talking about a lot of terms, and we want you to be able to take notes. Okay, not in the packet. It's a whole separate packet of information with this white and gray, so you can take notes on it. All right, next you should have Citizen Civil Academy Bingo. And yes, there are prizes, but you can't start just yet. I will tell you when Citizen Civil Academy Bingo starts. Then something very, 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 very extremely important is a single page that says session survey. We really do read this and we take your comments seriously. In fact, because someone wrote down that they wanted a terminology sheet, we took that advice and it's been really popular. So take a moment before you leave or while you're attending the session, please fill that out. Okay, anyone not have all of those documents? Okay. Well then, let's get started next. So you can pull out your packets and follow along. Next. Audio. Hello. This is going to be really different because I usually have my PowerPoint and I press a button, and so I've got the lady in the back, so we're going to see how our code works. All right, so this is very important. This disclaimer. And we're going to read it out because I want to make sure that everyone's very clear. The attached comments and handouts are only intended as an educational guide and should not be interpreted as legal advice. We are not giving legal advice. Attendees or people that you make copies of this for are advised to seek an attorney if legal advice is needed. Laws and their interpretation are subject to change at any time. Also, how the laws and statutes might affect your particular fact situation will affect the type of legal advice given. So we're not giving legal advice. Actions taken by the program participants or readers based on this information is solely at your own risk. Okay, and here's the legalese that you're going to love. Neither the Citizen Civil Academy, nor Judge Staci Williams, nor the Pleasant Grove Ministerial Alliance, nor the New Millennial Bible Fellowship Praise Center shall have any liability stemming from the information contained in the presentations or handouts provided. So you get this, so you've got the information, we're giving you information, but if you go file a lawsuit and then you get washed out, don't say, oh, Judge Staci Williams told me. No, you can't say Pleasant Grove Ministerial Alliance told me. Not gonna work. Can't say Bishop Slater. Can't say New Millennium. This is for information purposes only. What I want you to do is take this information and use it. It's the beginning point. It's not gonna get you all the way there. It's a beginning point. So with that, let's get started. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Well, you know, a lot of times we had questions. They'll say, well, I want to know what kind of court fees. Well, guys, before we even start talking about court fees, you've got to know which court we're talking about. Now, we have federal courts and state courts. We're going to analyze the different types of state courts. You know, we're in the great state of Texas, so we have lots of courts in the state of Texas next. All right, anatomy of a lawsuit. What happens from a case from the time it's filed until it's disposed of? And I've got a surprise for you guys. We're going to take a tour of the George Allen Courts building in downtown Dallas next. We're going to talk about what it means to represent yourself. It's called pro se representation. I'm going to even show you how to do some legal research, and we've got lots of legal resources for you next. As you'll see in your handout, we've got the court structure of Texas, and we're going to go over all this: highway patrol citation search, failure to appear, license eligibility, and lawyer referral service. That's just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to be covering today. Next. And then we're going to play CCA bingo, all right? So everyone knows how to play bingo. You can get it with horizontal, vertical, and well, you know how to play it. And you shout CCA bingo, and there are prizes, all right? But only when I start the lecture, when I say start, that's when you can start playing CCA bingo, not before. Next. All right, so let's get started. The differences between the federal and state. Next. All right, but before we even do that, and I know I got some questions. They said, oh, I need some advice about court. Well, guys, okay, there are two big systems, two types of cases. One is criminal and the other is civil. Criminal is a legal action brought by the government, usually the DA, charging a person with committing a crime. All right, so we get felonies or misdemeanors, and felonies are the murders, rapes, drugs. Misdemeanors are kind of that misdemeanor assault, driving while intoxicated, driving under the influence. And we've all heard, if you haven't heard, you know, the Amber Geiger case is a criminal case right now, and she's being charged with murder, which is a felony. And you probably all know that it's at the Frank Crowley Courts building. Next. On the other side of criminal cases are civil cases. Those are the type of cases I hear. And they don't, the easiest way to say is they don't involve criminal matters. I don't put anyone in jail. There's no such thing as guilt or innocence in a civil case. First you decide liability, and then you decide money damages. So we decide, I do a lot of disputes between businesses, but civil cases also include family law cases. So divorce, child support, got a lot of debt collections, either businesses suing each other, or when you don't pay your MasterCard. We have a lot of law firms that just prosecute citizens for not paying their credit card bills. So those are civil cases. Any questions on the difference between civil and criminal? So the first time someone comes to you and says, Pastor, I got a case, take a step back. Guys, are we talking civil or criminal? Next, you need to find out if it's federal or state. Next, and so we're going to make sure it's very, because they're very different, the federal courts and the state courts. Next. So we're going to address first the federal courts. In the federal courts, we've got the district courts, the Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. And I want you just to look at this structure. It's almost like a wedding cake, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court. Next. And that's what I want you to think about, the structure of the federal courts. It's very simple, 1 layer, 2 layer, 3 layer, topped off with 1 Supreme Court. Pretty logical and rational. Next. So we're going to go back, we're going to discuss each level in the federal court system. Next. The first level are the district courts. The district courts are the trial courts for the federal courts. And so we're talking about admiralty. If you're on a ship, let's say a cruise ship, and you slip and fall, that's going to be a federal case. And believe it or not, if you slip and fall, for example, on Carnival Cruise Lines, if you read all that tiny, horrible language that you never read, it has to be filed in Miami District Court. And I know that because I had a case, and I was absolutely shocked that I was told, nope, well, you can't file it in state court. I don't care if your client is from Dallas. Read the tiny, and we had to file it in Federal District Court in Miami. Yes?
So why? Is that because it's where you're domiciled?
Well, no, it's because, guess what? You bought a ticket, and you agreed to the terms. And that's in the terms of your ticket. So the next time you buy a ticket, you'd be surprised what you're agreeing to. I tell everyone, read everything before you sign it. Even if they're saying, you got to sign it now, you're going to miss that. Just go, you know what? I'd rather miss it. There's a lot of things in lots of sales contracts. If you have a dispute, they won't let you go to court. They'll say, we want this, all this is going to go to arbitration. So read everything, because you're signing away rights. And a lot of times, I know, I was going into the hospital, and I've probably been blacklisted in several hospitals in Dallas, because I wouldn't agree to it. I said, I'm striking it. And they go, well, we're not going to perform the service. I said, well, fine, let me speak to your general counsel. What? Yeah, give me your general counsel. This is the name of them. Give them a call. Spoke to the general counsel. We struck the language. Because the person who's admitting you in the hospital doesn't know. The person who's selling you the car doesn't know. But if you let them know that you know that you're doing. Now, there's one, I was negotiating a contract about, before I went on the bench, maybe about 8 years ago when the Tesla cars first came out. And my girlfriend, who's on the opposite end of the income stream, thought it was great to spend $100,000 on a car. And so we read it. And there were lots of provisions. But you know what Tesla told me? Take it or leave it. And she left it. But since then, she did buy one, and we've noticed there was a change in the contract terms. And I'd like to say at least we tried pushing the ball. But it was unconscionable what Tesla had done. But please, just read everything. Sorry, I get excited about certain things. So, all right, in federal courts, you also have bankruptcy. No, can you go back, please? Thank you. Okay. So federal courts, they have criminal. As I say, these are the high-class criminals. This isn't someone that just walks into 7-Eleven and steals bread. I call them the high class because these are people who do the bank fraud. If they're going to steal, they steal a big truckload of items and take it across state lines. Or when you kidnap someone, you take them across state lines. That's a federal crime. Civil disputes, lots of big businesses in different states, although we do hear them a lot in state court. Sometimes they will remove it to federal court. Disputes between two states, and primarily federal questions of law. For example, when they wanted to challenge the Affordable Care Act, that goes into a federal court because it is a federal question. You're questioning a federal law or the constitutionality of a law. Next. So we're going to talk about the district court next. The district courts, if anyone's been in downtown Dallas for this area, it's at the Earl Cabell Federal Building, or more infamously, that's where they had the sniper with the shooting a couple of months ago. Next. So the U.S. district courts are the trial courts for the federal courts. And those judges hear both civil and criminal cases. As I mentioned, federal kidnapping laws, and it becomes federal when you take someone across state lines. Copyright issues. For example, you write a song, someone writes a song, and then 20 years later, someone starts rapping to it and doesn't pay them royalties. Banking laws. Discrimination can actually be heard in federal or state, for example, depending on if you file with the EEOC, which is a federal agency, or the Texas Workforce Commission, which is the state. And we are in the Northern District of Texas, and it's huge because it covers over 100 counties in Texas. Any type of federal case will be in U.S. District Court. And again, as I said, that's the trial court. And what I mean by the trial court, that's the only place where you're going to introduce exhibits, evidence. You're going to take the testimony from witnesses. You can either have a jury trial or a trial before the judge. Next. All right, so what happens if the jury comes back with a verdict and you're not very happy with it? Well, you can appeal to what we call the Court of Appeals. Next. So for the Northern District of Texas, it's the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I'm circling circuit. So I want you to remember circuit means federal, because when we start talking about the Texas, there's a little confusion. And if anyone here a John Grisham fan? Yes. All right, do you see the movie, I think The Pelican Brief? They filmed part of it at the Court of Appeals in New Orleans. And I know when you go down to New Orleans, you're thinking about eating in Bourbon Street, you can go tour the Court of Appeals, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I don't know how much you can see, but let's get to the next slide. I mean, it's marble hallways. I mean, I just think it's like so elegant and wonderful. So kind of like on your way, I mean, you're a U.S. citizen, you have to have a driver's license, because now we're dealing with federal judges, federal appellate judges, so they get kind of, I mean, they'll take your cell phone away from you, they'll have your ID, and they'll look at you really crazy. Or if you don't wear a nice fancy belt, because they'll take it off you and they will keep it. I mean, when you walk out, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And I just wish that citizens would really go take a look, because your tax dollars pay for this. Next. And in the Court of Appeals, you can't see, it could either be 3, or it could be what's called en banc, which means 12. So all 12 Court of Appeals justices can hear the case. But again, it's just absolutely beautiful. So from a district court in the federal system, you want to appeal it, the circuit court, Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And for the Northern District of Texas, that's in New Orleans. And no, they didn't pay me, but I just think it's so gorgeous. Go take a look on your way to having a nice lunch. Next. All right, now we're going to talk about the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court. Next. And you know, that's in Washington, D.C. And unlike the Texas Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, hears both civil and criminal appeals. The U.S. Supreme Court judges are not elected. The U.S. Supreme Court judges are appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. And I think we've all been aware of several Supreme Court nominations in the confirmation process. But once they go through all of that, they are there for life. All right, and as long as they want to be, I just say thank God RBG is hanging on. Next. All right, so these are our Supreme Court justices. Bingo! No, it's not bingo, but we do have our first prize of the day, the original CCA mug, but there is a catch to it. Quietly to yourself, write down the names of all the Supreme Court justices. And if you can, you will be the winner of a porcelain CCA mug. Hey, I know you know them, because these are the guys that decided the Affordable Care Act. These are the highest court in our land. I know you know them. So I'm going to give you like a minute or two. You've watched some of the confirmation processes. I'm going to give you a minute, and then whoever has all 9 of them, raise your hand. But even if you've been in my class, we've changed some Supreme Court justices. So I'm going to just circle, and then we'll come back. I'm just going to circle so you can write down his name. Circle his name. His name. Her name. His name. We're going to go back. Oh, okay. Is there any way, they say they can't see the faces. So is there any way you can blow that up and make it bigger? If not, you have to know their names anyway. That was a good cop-out. All right. All right. So here's someone. Here's someone. Here's someone. All right. Do. Okay, any brave volunteers? Come on. Wait. No. Don't give it out. Don't give it out. Do you know all 9?
No.
Okay. Anyone know all 9? U.S. Supreme Court, civil rights laws, religious liberty, gerrymandering. Oh my God. And not even for a CCA mug? All right. Boy, you guys are going to be coming back. All right, so we need 9. I can't give you half a mug. All right, so, okay, all right, this one. Anyone know? Right here. Oh, come on, you should know their names anyway. All right, this is Breyer, Stephen Breyer. Okay, I know, who's this? Only African American, Clarence Thomas. Okay, we know who this is. This is the person who called him Barack Hussein Obama. Who's that? Chief Justice John Roberts. All right. Yes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, RBG. All right, next. Samuel Alito, A-L-I-T-O. All right, these are kind of the ones that just came up, all right? Gorsuch. G-O-R-S-U-C-H. Thank you. Next. Sotomayor. Yes. Next. Kagan. Elena Kagan. And last but not Kavanaugh. Yeah. Boy, if you don't know their names, I bet you haven't read their opinions, have you? Okay. Well, I might have these are really nice mugs. Okay, but there'll be another opportunity, so we'll see. All right, next. It's quiz time, because you guys didn't know CCA is actually a school. Any school teachers in here? Yeah, I know there's one. So you give quiz. Do teachers still give quizzes? All right, okay. So we're going to do a quiz on the federal system. Next. All right. Paul is being charged for burning the American flag in front of the post office. The U.S. attorney files charges against him. In what court will Paul be in? District court. Excellent. Yes, because that's the trial court and it's the U.S. attorney. And the U.S. attorney actually files both criminal and civil cases. But that's a district court where Paul will have his own attorney and they will charge him for burning a flag. There will be a trial. Witnesses are presented, exhibits are offered, and it may or may not be a jury trial. Excellent. Bingo. Next. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say bingo since we're playing bingo. All right, let's do another one. Paul now appeals his conviction for burning the American flag in front of the U.S. Postal Office. U.S. Court of Appeals. All right, excellent. Yes, after the district court, you have the Court of Appeals. And I'll just tell you, when it's an appeal, there are no more witnesses, no more exhibits. They look at that trial transcript, and the attorneys can write briefs and may or may not be able to present oral arguments. Next. Paul appeals the Court of Appeals decision upholding his conviction for burning the U.S. flag. Paul appeals to the Supreme. Excellent, excellent. And as you realize, it's nice levels in the federal courts. You've got the district court, the trial courts, then you have the Court of Appeals, which is appellate, and then the U.S. Supreme Court. Excellent. Yes.
So does that mean that Paul can be in jail or out of bond during all of this appeal?
I would assume so, but federal judges do whatever they want. Yeah, and it depends if that's a fine. Each crime either has a fine and or jail sentence, so it depends on the statute, and I can't say. Now, if it's like murder, bank fraud, maybe. It depends if you're Felicity Hoffman, right? All right, next. Next. Oh, it's another one. Okay. So, Sally Singer sues a famous band for stealing her song and violating her copyright. District court, right. I just changed it because copyright is part of the federal district court. So, it goes in the U.S. District Court. Excellent. All right, so we've covered the federal system. So we know there's a step of analysis when someone says, hey, I got a court case. First thing we want to find out, is it criminal or civil? Then you're going to next find out, is it federal or state? So we've covered the federal. Now we're going to do the great state of Texas. All right, so the Texas court system, and we're in Texas, so we've got a huge state, lots of different shapes. So what does the court system look like? Next. This is our wedding cake for the state of Texas. Man, we got lots of layers going up this way, very extravagant, going up. And believe it or not, that's what our court system looks like. Next. So in your handouts, first you have the court structure of Texas. This is just a nice kind of demonstrative of what it looks like. We're going to go through it, but please don't get upset if I seem to be zipping through it, because you do have the facts here. But this is just a nice way to reference back once you're talking to someone who say, okay, which court is it in? But it's nice. All right, next. And it's 2 pages. Next. But for our purposes today, we've broken it down very simple for the state court system. But again, all this information is in that handout. All right, and as you'll see, we've got JP, Justice of the Peace Courts, municipal courts, our county level courts, our district courts, our Court of Appeals, and hey, what's going on here? Supreme Court, Court of Criminal Appeals, same level. But then we have district courts. Sometimes things go all the way up to the Court of Criminal Appeals. Sometimes it goes up to the Court of Appeals, just like the layers in the wedding cake. Next. So the trial courts in Texas, unlike the federal courts, which only had 1 trial level, we have over 7 levels of trial courts in the state of Texas. So it can be the municipal courts, justice or justice of the peace courts, our juvenile courts, our probate courts, our civil county courts at law, our constitutional county courts, which are our probates, and our district courts. So you could have a trial in any of those areas. So again, if someone comes up to me, I got trial, you got to say, well, federal, state, criminal, and which one? All right, next. So again, as I've mentioned, a trial court is a trial court no matter if it's in the federal or state level. But in a trial court, we take the testimony from witnesses, we admit evidence, and if it's a jury or judge, we look at that evidence and we decide what weight to give it. How credible is it? Is it something that you want to give a lot of weight to or not very much? You can have with or without a jury. A lot of people take a jury trial if it's before the court, before the judge, or sometimes we refer to it as a bench trial. And then, as we've already learned in the federal sector, if you lose at the trial court level, you can appeal. Next. So this is our state court system. Next. And we're going to start off with the JP courts, Justice of the Peace Courts. Next. All right, and Justice of the Peace Court, Texas has the most Justice of the Peace Courts is at that lower level, and it's based on a geographic region. So if you hear JP11, which I think this is where this area is, and it's just Judge Jones, a JP court judge is only in a certain geographic area. If you live in another part of Dallas, you have another Justice of the Peace Court. And actually, starting September 1st, it used to be actions of no more than $10,000, but the state legislature has increased it up to $25,000. And they do criminal cases, but only misdemeanors and only those that are punishable by a fine. All right, so a JP judge, no matter how much they tell you, well, unless you've done something for contempt, you can't get charged with something and get thrown in jail for it. Next. What kind of cases are primarily in front of the Justice of the Peace? Debt collections. Now they can file those credit card disputes in Justice of the Peace Court. Now it can go up to $25,000. They do a lot of landlord-tenant work, lots of evictions. Or even on the other side, people think, oh, only the landlords have any rights. But, you know, if you're a tenant, your landlord has a duty to repair. So sometimes we do see these lawsuits. And now it's small claims less than $25,000. Another interesting fact, if someone's a Justice of the Peace, they do not have to be a lawyer. So you've got some Justice of the Peace are not lawyers. That's the only trial court. They don't have to be a lawyer. They can be a TV judge but Judge Judy, I think, really is a lawyer. So, you know, if you just want to be a Justice of the Peace, you can. Now, I am surprised there are lawyers jumping into Justice of the Peace courts, but we really call these the People's Court because more people go through the Justice of the Peace Court than any other level of trial court. And this is we're going to talk about this a bit later, but this is a place where it's pretty safe. You could probably not have an attorney and actually represent yourself. All right, but you got to, of course, everything facts. Now, when you get, yes?
What gives them the background to determine the cases?
Well, they're not. Well, they have great training.
Oh, okay.
They have great training. As soon as, in fact, the state of Texas does an excellent job actually of training all judges, but they have it at different levels, and they give those Justices of the Peace thick notebooks, procedure, policy, and laws to follow. So unless, you know, it's pretty good because I've even looked at it. All right, next. Class C misdemeanors like your county traffic or parking related ordinances, something I didn't realize. DART tickets. If your kids get a DART ticket, it goes in the Justice of the Peace Court. Very, very interesting. So that's another thing. Make sure if you get a traffic ticket, make sure you know who issued it. Because it can be from the municipality, your city police officer, or it can be the sheriffs for the county. Or if you sometimes, that's never happened to me, of course, speeding like on I-20, you've got your state highway patrol people. So but we're gonna talk about our traffic tickets next. All right, so we've gone to the JP court. We have the municipal courts. And just as we say in the title, municipal is from Latin muni, which means the city. So each city has their own municipal court. So we've got the city of Mesquite, Dallas, Richardson, DeSoto, Duncanville. They all have their own municipal courts, and those judges are usually appointed by the city council. There are some jurisdictions that actually elect their municipal judges, but it's my understanding from Dallas County, all those judges are appointed by their city council. Next. So again, they have criminal misdemeanors like someone throwing trash down, but it's what the city police officers have written, all right? And then municipal ordinance, we've got some great folks from Code here today. I won't point them out, they're looking down. But when Code writes you a ticket and you're not too happy about it, you can take that to municipal court, all right? High weeds, didn't paint your house, next. All right, so does anyone know which municipal court this is? Grand Prairie. All right, so again, Class C misdemeanor, motor vehicle operation. You know, when you get tickets for no insurance or speeding. Next. Driving without a license. driving without a valid inspection. And let me guys tell you, the reason why most people get stopped is because one of these small things. They got Timothy McVeigh, the bomber, because he didn't put his directional on. They stopped Sandra Bland because she had gotten a ticket, I think, for not having a valid inspection. So these, even though they are a pain, okay, well, okay. All right, great. Well, we've got more of a legal eagle for me. I was incorrect. Sandra Bland was for probably not turning on her directional, making a right-hand turn. But they can stop you for something silly. And as you see, it can have life consequences. Next. City ordinances, zoning, building codes, and dangerous dogs, those pit bulls that are walking your neighborhoods. All right, next. Oh, and this is the Irving Municipal Court. Next. Substandard building, abandoned motor vehicles. And guess what? We used to have red light cameras, but as of September 1st, the legislature has abandoned them. But I think the cities get to keep them as long as their contract. So they'll let them phase out. They finally got rid of those red light cameras. Next.
So when you say the city gets to keep them, are they still operational?
Well, I think it depends on the contract. So for example, the City of Dallas's contract lasts for the next 3 years. I think they can still keep them. I haven't read the legislation closely, but I don't know if they'll still enforce it. I think there might be some legal issues because the state legislature has already said we don't want them anymore. But you've got to, again, what they tell you on the news and what the legislation actually says is usually different. So I guess I tell you that look at don't go through it. But really, people get upset when they get a red light camera. Guys, it doesn't get reported to your insurance. It's $75. And if you do try to fight it, which I've tried, because I actually implemented the red light camera docket for the City of Dallas, that hearing officer was not having a word. I said, is that your car? Is that your license plate? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just pay it. So I just wasted my time to go park at City Hall, wait for someone to call me in, give me a surly attitude. And I really wanted to, and I usually like to fly under the radar screen, so I didn't say, ma'am, you know, I created this docket, I heard the first cases, I handled the first challenge. No, I didn't tell her, and she kind of let me know who was in control. So, but at least that's over. The legislature finally listened. So just one plug, it really matters who your state legislator is. All right, county level courts next. All right, so usually the county level courts are your statutory probate courts, the probate of wills, administration of estates, if you need guardianships, or sometimes the application for involuntary mental health. We have 3 probate court judges. They moved the probate courts from the records building because of asbestos. So they're now actually in a Renaissance Tower, but I just heard they're gonna move them over to George Allen. But you know, it's a county, it might take another year. So if you wanna go to the probate courts, if you were there 20 years ago or even 5 years ago, they're not in the same place. They're on like the 23rd floor. Beautiful views, but the parking's horrible. I'll say don't park in Renaissance Tower. 5 minutes is like $20. And even as a county employee, we don't get a break. So I find I keep lots of quarters in my car if I ever have to go there for street parking. All right, next. Another type of county court is what we call the county court at law, civil cases. In Dallas, they basically have the same jurisdiction as we do, except they get the pleasure of hearing the appeals from the JP courts on evictions. In Dallas, the county courts at law are separate. We've got county courts at law civil, county courts at law criminal. But if you go just to Denton County, they'll have 1 or 2 county courts at law, and those judges have to hear both civil and criminal cases. But our county court at law civil cases, civil courts, they're on the 4th floor at George Allen. Next. 4th and the 5th floor. County court at law criminal, again, those are the misdemeanors. They are at the Frank Crowley Courthouse. Again, these are the misdemeanors. Fines greater than $500 or a jail sentence. They do lots of DWIs and lots of small theft cases. Yes, what do you need? Nothing? You need a handout? A pen? You got it? Okay. Want coffee? You're good? Okay. We try to make everyone feel comfortable at home. No bingos yet? Okay. All right, next. Yeah, you're supposed, I mean, you have to multitask. You got to listen, you got to take notes, you got to bingo. But that's okay. I've got some prizes I can take home. All right. Next, the district courts. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't tell you bingo. Okay, so we can start. Oh well. I forgot. I got so excited about this. All right, you can start playing. Catch up. You use your discretion. His question was, how do we know? Just based on your memory, yes.
I think the family due judge is just give everybody a prize.
If what?
Give everybody a prize at the end. We all be there.
I don't have enough. He says, why don't you just give everyone a prize? I didn't bring enough prizes for everyone. You know, it's like, you know, not everyone gets a blue ribbon. See, that's why kids are spoiled now. They get an award for everything. I come from the old school where, you know, one person got a blue ribbon, one person got the trophy. When your team lost, you just went home and hoped your mom gave you pizza. You know, and Chef Boyardee, you know.
What are the rules for this game?
Oh, only when you've heard the word or what we've discussed. All right. Okay. Now we're going to talk about district courts. In Dallas County, our district courts are specialized actions over 200. We've got civil courts, district courts for criminal, family, juvenile, and kind of the general commercial. Next. So in state district court, now in district courts outside of Dallas, Houston, and Austin, one state district court judge has to hear civil, criminal, family, and juvenile cases. Next, but in our larger metropolitan areas, particularly Dallas, so we have separate judges for juveniles. And those juveniles are at the Juvenile Detention Center. We've got 2 judges there. Our family district courts, which are our family issues, divorce, child custody, our 4D courts, child support, those are on the 3rd and 4th floors at George Allen. Our criminal district courts, those are on the 7th floor at Frank Crowley. Those are what I call the serious, the murders, rapes, and drugs. The Amber Geiger case is being heard by a felony court judge, who's also, when we did guest judges, Judge Kemp has come twice to the Citizens Civil Academy, so I'm real proud of her. And then civil district courts, that's what I am. We've got 13 of them, and we're on the 6th, 7th, and 8th floors of the George Allen building. Next. So what do we hear in civil district court? Motor vehicles, kind of what we call the car wreck cases. You get injured in a car wreck and maybe the insurance doesn't pay all the way, or the other side thinks that you're a malingerer. So we do hear lots of car accident cases. Professional malpractice, primarily against doctors, but we have them against accountants, architects, anyone in a professional capacity. But most of the ones that I've heard are either medical or dental cases. And those take about 3 or 4 years to even just get to trial. Next. Consumer debt, remember we talked about the credit card. We have the credit card cases, but we're hoping that those number of cases will go down in district court because everyone will file them in Justice of the Peace Court. Someone had a question about filing fees. We'll talk about that later because it depends on which court. Someone just said, what are the filing fees to file something? And I was going through my notes and I said, well, gosh, is it federal or state? All right. All right, she thinks. All right, let's hear what you got. Supreme Court. Okay, I'm going to go through. Supreme Court. Oh, no, that's just 4. It's got to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Going the wrong way. Going the wrong way.
All right, you're almost there. You're almost there. All right. So we've got no, we haven't done Van Sickle yet. No.
Okay.
Okay. Well, all right. I still have to have my judge eyes on. All right. Good try. Good try. Good try. All right, next. Mortgage foreclosures. Oh, I hate those cases. Those are really tough. and a lot of them come up right during Christmas time. You wouldn't believe the homeowner association disputes. Guys, those get really nasty when you've got a homeowner's dispute. I've got one case now where 14 families against the homeowners association. And can you imagine trying to schedule a trial with 14 people and 14 different schedules? It's a nightmare. We also have the tax cases, but we're lucky enough in Dallas, we have an associate judge who just handles the tax cases. So when Linebarger says that you owe a certain amount of money. Personal injury, again, we hear lots of personal injury, but because of the Texas State Legislature, we really don't hear that many slip and falls because you get washed out on summary judgment. We'll talk about summary judgment, but because of the way our Texas Supreme Court has ruled, guys, if you slip and fall, just pick yourself up and go back home. I mean, you're going to be 3 years and then you get washed out. No, I'm not giving legal advice. Your attorney will tell you, but the likelihood of you getting past summary judgment in a slip and fall case is minimal. Because the standards are so high, and it's not based on how much you hurt your back or you had to have back surgery or that ambulance, right? It has nothing to do with that. It's the the building owner's obligation and the duty of the warrant. And all I'll say is do your research before someone tells you to go through 3 years of this and then you find out it gets washed out before it even gets to trial. And that vehicle is summary judgment. We're going to talk about it. But yeah, those days of slip and fall, the big verdicts, no more. Next. All right, so now we're going to go to the Court of Appeals. As we see, the district courts, county courts, we'll go to the Court of Appeals. And again, when we hear appeal, it's not a new trial. You don't get to bring new witnesses or new evidence. It's solely based on the transcript, which consists of the testimony of the witnesses and the exhibits that have been offered and admitted. So for the state court, next. All right, so the Court of Appeals decides whether the trial courts made an error in applying the law. As I've said several times, no new fact witnesses. They look at the transcript, the admitted exhibits, and sometimes the justices will allow oral arguments. A lot of times they won't. It's just going to be based on the briefs written by your attorneys. Next. Now in Texas, we have 14 Court of Appeals areas. Now in Dallas, it was called the Fifth Court of Appeals, or sometimes we call it the Court of Appeals for the Fifth District of Texas at Dallas. Next, we also call it the Dallas, it has so many names. The Fifth Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals for the Fifth District of Texas, Dallas Court of Appeals. And that's, remember when we talked about the federals and I kept circling circuit? So when you hear the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, we're talking federal. But when you hear Fifth Court of Appeals, we're talking state. And it's even why we call it the Dallas Court of Appeals, because the Court of Appeals for the Fifth Court actually is in Dallas. It's at the George Allen Courthouse on the second floor. But it takes appeals from the trial courts not only in Dallas, but Collin County, Grayson, Hunt, Kaufman, and Rockwall. And actually they have pretty nice hearing rooms too. You can go on their website and see when they're having oral arguments. You can come on up, sit at the table, get your hand out, stop, get some coffee. All right, next. So again, that's why I put an X. It's not the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans, which is for the federal side. It's Fifth Circuit. Next. We're the Court of Appeals. And listen, a lot of lawyers don't even understand it, or they'll say the wrong terminology. You think, all right, let's see. Right, trial, Fifth Circuit, records, Kagan, justice. All right. Okay, so since it's a lot easier to get bingo than it is the name of justice, you get a sticky pad.
Oh, wonderful.
All right, an official Judge Staci sticky pad. All right, next. Okay, now we're getting near the top, but this is the great state of Texas. Guess what? We have a Supreme Court on the same level as a Court of Criminal Appeals. You might say, wait a second, Judge. Court of Appeals, but just like that wedding cake, we've got lots of levels. So We have the District Courts, Court of Appeals. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court of Texas next. Now, the Supreme Court of Texas is the highest court in Texas only for civil and juvenile cases. Only for civil and juvenile cases. One court, 9 justices. Unlike the justices on the U.S. Supreme Court, Texas justices are elected in partisan elections. All right, next. So here's our Texas Supreme Court. Now, our Texas Supreme Court hears appeals for all types of civil cases. They're going to start hearing redistricting cases. For example, they had a case in front of them where lots of the cities had approved and implemented plastic bag laws for the environment. Okay, it went up to the Texas Supreme Court. Guess what? Supreme Court said no. Forget local rule. So the Supreme Court has a lot of power in the state of Texas, and now the U.S. Supreme Court in June said the U.S. Supreme Court will no longer be the court of last result for redistricting issues, challenges, gerrymandering. We're sending it back to the state, and guess who's going to have the final say-so? The Texas Supreme Court. And so for such important issues, I know you know who all these people are, so we're going to take about 5 minutes so you guys can name all these people. They've got the life in your hands because the U.S. Supreme Court is they believe in states' rights, so they want everything to go back to the states. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, figure out who's here. You might be sitting next to them on the plane. You can't ex parte them, which means talk about an issue, but I know you know who the Texas Supreme Court is. This person's been on for 20 years. I'll give you a hint. Usually they're not elected. They get appointed, but someone retires, then the governor appoints them, and then no one runs against them, and so they've been here for years. This person's been in for 20 years. And as you can tell, this is most seniority, and then it goes up to the younger ones. All right, this person just lost an election in Houston, and Governor Abbott put him on the Texas Supreme Court because he needed work. Maybe because he wanted to. Okay, I'm going to give you a minute or so. Important court, Texas Supreme Court. And that's closer to you. Austin is closer to you than Washington, D.C. So I get that you didn't know the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. But these people, I've seen this justice on Southwest Airlines. She's actually very nice. Okay, anyone ready? They're going to have the final say-so on laws in the state of Texas. 3 of them are up for election. Okay. I'll make sure I get their names right, too, so. All right, so, here they are. And let me tell you, when someone runs for the Texas Supreme Court, even though they have places, they run statewide. All right, so this is our Chief Justice, Nathan Heck. All right, he's from the Dallas area. The one who I say is really nice. She speaks at lots of bar associations, and she'll take selfies with you, and I put her on Twitter. This is Justice Eva Guzman, the first and only Hispanic member of the Texas Supreme Court. It's bingo. Bingo. Whoa, how many bingos? Raise your hands. 3? All right, you'll get 3. I trust you, Scout's honor, right? Or maybe you're just telling me that because I can't put you in jail. Oh, right here. Okay, tell me which 3. Guzman, Municipal Court, Kavanaugh, Justice, and Citation. All right. Who was the next one? Over at this. No, we didn't say Citation. Oh, because. All right, what do you have? 5th Circuit, Guzman, Kagan, Citation, Traffic. There you go. Who else? Someone over here. All right, we've got 5th Circuit, Ginsburg, Personal Injury, Divorce, Justice Court. They're your own personal sticky. But no one wants a mug today. You have to do the hard questions. All right? Over here is Justice Paul Green. All right? Okay, no bingos. All right? Okay, anyone here? Jimmy Blacklock. Okay, we're going to stop bingo for a second. I know you guys are really bored with this, but I really want you to know who's here. Blacklock. All right. Next we have, with the glasses, that's easy, Divine. John Divine. This woman's out of Richardson, Deborah Learman. She was a district court judge in Collin County. This guy, Jeff Boyd, was a chief of staff, general counsel for the governor. A vacancy came up, and the governor appointed him to the Texas Supreme Court. Never been a judge in his life. All right, next we have, who's next? Divine, Boyd, Learman. Excuse me? No, that's criminal. Brett Busby is a short guy over here. He was on the Court of Appeals in Houston, and he lost. And the governor. Oh, this is Jeff Brown, who just got appointed to the federal district court, and now Justice Jane Bland. Actually, it's really funny. She lost the Court of Appeals race in Houston and the governor. So I think the governor likes like Houston justices, because we've got like now Guzman is from Houston too. So Dallas is lacking. All right, guys, your Texas. Sure. It's 9. Okay, you know what? Why don't you let me, and then you'll see which one you did. All right, so you ready? You just want me to read their names? All right. We've got Heck, Green, Guzman, Blacklock, Busby, Learman, Boyd, and Divine. And Brown, but Brown is no longer on the Texas Supreme Court. No, I said 9.
No, I said Learman. You said
Learman, yeah. Lehrmann.
So there only should be 2 women versus 3.
Well, there'll be a third one because this guy got appointed. Actually, it's very interesting. Justice Brown, he just got elected to the Texas Supreme Court, but he was on the short list for the president, and he just got his nomination was approved by the U.S. Senate, so he's now going to be a judge. And Governor Abbott has just appointed a woman from who also lost an election, Court of Appeals, Jane Bland out of Houston.
She's not there yet.
She just got there last week, but the picture hasn't been updated.
So whose place did she take?
Brown.
So Brown,
Brown and Bland. Busby has been in. The only thing is Bland and Busby both lost their races in Houston for the 14th Court of Appeals. All right? Got it? Got a question? Not yet. All right, next. All right, so we have a Court of Criminal Appeals. Okay, guys, this is important. Watch it. All right, so we have a Supreme Court, which only hears civil and juvenile. We've got a Court of Criminal Appeals, and even though it has the word appeal in it, that in Texas is our Supreme. Okay, I'm hearing a voice. Someone's competing with me. Court of Criminal. We can take care of that at a break. Okay. Yeah. Because this is really super important because this is one of the unique situations that only Texas. So on the same level, the Court of Criminal Appeals, that is our Supreme Court for criminal issues. So if someone gets sentenced to death, it doesn't go to the Texas Supreme Court. It goes to the Court of Criminal Appeals. So if someone says, I've been sentenced to death row, first you're going to ask, Texas, or is it a state, or is it federal? Now, the U.S. Supreme Court will hear appeals, but it's through the federal system. But if someone just got sentenced to death, it's going to go to the Court of Criminal Appeals. They have the final say-so. So that is our Supreme Court for criminal cases in the state of Texas. Next. Okay, just like the U.S. Supreme Court, 1 court, 9 judges, elected in partisan races, final appellate jurisdiction in all criminal cases. Next.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
The court that you was talking about, with the one that had the Say death sentence, what's it together?
Court of Criminal Appeals. All right. So, okay, guys, your last chance. This really is a beautiful, heavy-duty mug, and it's got the CCA logo on it. This is the Court of Criminal Appeals. Final say-so. If you want to appeal someone's conviction all the way up, you don't do it to the Texas Supreme Court, Court of Criminal Appeals. These people run for office. They're on your ballot. I know you know who they are. And just because this has just been tough, I know it's been really difficult and challenging, I'm going to give you a hint. Do you guys remember about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a judge who their lawyers were trying to get an appeal, death row, and she wouldn't open the court. It was like 4:59. They were having email problems. She wouldn't open the court. You remember that? Oh, man. Okay, well, I was giving you a hint. This is Justice Sharon Kelleher. She's from the Dallas area, Kelleher family of hamburgers. Guys, these people, you can't just vote, either vote for these people or don't vote at all. These people have great power. Now, this lady over here, I don't know how you know her, but you said Hervey. Hervey is on. Which one?
I vote for all of them.
Oh, you vote for these people?
I vote for everything. Everyone.
Okay, I think I'd be really careful. Look at the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. You might not get out of here alive.
What I say is I do read their, I find out who they are.
Okay, well, no, I'm no aspersions cast, but I think if you saw some of the positions Justice Hervey took, you might not say that you vote for her. Okay.
On my bingo, that's why they
Oh.
I mean, she voted every day.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, she kind of scared me because, okay.
But that's a really valid point. We need to know who we are voting for, what they stand for.
Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
To that, let me say one.
Okay.
To that, let me say one of the things that's dangerous sometimes is they may be unopposed, so we end up being stuck with the bad person that's there.
Then you don't vote for them.
Well, that's what I'm planning to do on somebody else.
An election, and let's say there are 1 million votes, and someone wins with only 200,000. That says a lot. Because you might
That's
be
good.
voting for someone whose interests are totally opposite.
That's a very good point.
You know, because that is a problem. But I think in this election, people are so excited. Just a second, there are seats. People are running contested elections, and just about from dog catcher all the way up to the president. We got 13 people running for the presidency in one party, and maybe a couple percolating in the other party. Oh, it's going to be, but it's most incumbent upon you. Just because someone says they want a position doesn't mean that they're best qualified for it. Yes, ma'am, in the pink.
Yes, I was going to say what she was saying is when you go to the ballot though and they're running unopposed and you do the ballot, they automatically get it.
No, you don't have to. There will no longer be straight party ticket.
Okay.
You're going to have to individually.
What I'm saying, there's people you had
Yeah.
the choice when you do the ballot, if they're running unopposed, they get that vote.
If you vote straight party. If you don't vote straight party, then you know who you're voting for and why, not just because someone's a member of a particular party. And I'm not saying one way or the other, but I think it's very important that you know who you're voting for. It's very important. Okay, so no one's going to help me out? No one's going to help me out. Okay, I'm going to read out the names. What? Oh, no, you're looking at your phone. That doesn't count. That doesn't count at all. All right, so the middle, and what you'll notice, the one common thread in the U.S. Supreme Court, Texas Supreme Court, Court of Criminal Appeals, the Chief Justice always sits in the middle. All right, and then seniority goes up, and this is the most recent. So we're going to go through, I'm going to read the names. Since I don't do criminal law, I don't know them, but I'm sure some of these names you're going to hopefully recognize. Presiding Judge Sharon Keller, Michael Kiesler, Barbara Hervey, Bert Richardson, Kevin Urey, David Newell, Mary Lou Keel, Scott Walker, Michelle Slaughter.
Bingo.
Do it again.
All right, you ready? Keller, Keesler, and that's Keasler. Next is Hervey, Hervey. Richardson, Yeary, Yeary. Newell, Newell. Keel, Keel. Walker, and Slaughter. And Slaughter's claim to fame, which is in her bio, I'm not making it up.
With more than 4.7 million votes, she was the top vote getter in a contested election in the United States.
Nothing about her qualifications.
She got more votes in the state of Texas than Donald Trump.
All right, where's the bingo? You think you have? Okay, all right.
You want me to call them out?
Call them out.
Green, Irving, surcharge.
No, we haven't done surcharge.
My bingo.
All right,
District Court, Court of Appeals, Hervey, Municipal Court, Kavanaugh.
all right, next.
Criminal Officer Court, Justice Court, Ginsburg, and Trump.
Okay, you'll get yours on Monday. Next.
Pro se, personal injury, Keller, eviction, and criminal courts of appeal.
Right, all right.
Green, probate, Keller, Kagan, Sprinkler.
Where?
Green, probate, Keller, Kagan.
All right. Did you get one? You haven't got one? All right, you got one, okay.
It's my second one.
Oh, you can't have a second one. All right, and it was someone at this table? But you only get one. Traffic, Kessler, civil, okay. There you go. All right, anyone else? Yes. All right, you get a trusty sticky pad. All right. Okay. Yes. No, not yet. Not yet. Okay, guys, it's just so important. We had 3 important panels, the highest courts. No one knew their names. That means you haven't read their decisions. You don't know the impact they have on your life. Please, and you can just Google. If you're interested in criminal cases, someone whose name that you circle, look them up. Find out what they are advocating. All right, next. Of course, it's a quiz. All right, next, we're going to go through this really fast, and then we're going to take a break. State court quiz. Lydia receives a ticket or citation for making a right-hand turn on red. In which court will her case be?
Municipal court.
Municipal court?
It's either one, right?
It depends on who wrote the ticket.
It depends who wrote the ticket. You're right. Now, a lot of times you might get a ticket from a city officer, but guess what? If you get stopped by a Dallas County sheriff, it's in the Justice of the Peace Court. So again, no snap decision, guys. You got to think. You saw that, remember that wedding cake? It's all over the place. All right, so it could either be in municipal court or Justice of the Peace Court. Next. The district court convicts Latasha for armed robbery. To which court would Latasha appeal? Okay, I'm hearing district court, court of appeals, what else? Okay, so the district court is the trial court. She wants to appeal, so it'll be one of the court of appeals. If she was in Dallas, it would be the Dallas Court of Appeals. All right, next. The district court sentences Latasha for capital murder. To which court will Latasha appeal? And I didn't even cover that with you. Because let me tell you, I forgot to tell you, but if you were paying attention, from district court, usually all cases go to the Court of Appeals. But if it's capital murder, it gets to go all the way up to the top, which will be the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. If it were just a normal murder, it would go to the Court of Appeals. All right, next. Very good. Edward crashes his car into Javier's SUV, causing injuries and damages of $250,000. What court does Javier sue Edward? All right. So it's a civil case. Damages are over 250, so it is district court. Now, if it was less than, well, you know, it would go to county court. You wouldn't go to municipal court. All right, next. Kathy wants to evict her tenants for non-payment of rent. And which court does she file the eviction? Justice of the Peace. Someone's listening. Yay. Or else you already know it. Oh, I love that. Did you hear them? I think I'm going to give you a mug just for that. All right, next. Ahmad slips and falls on a pool of ice cream in a store. In which court does he file an action?
Now it's JP.
County court, civil district.
Now it's up they doing it. He said they
Someone said JP court, Justice of the Peace court. Okay, guys, this is a trick question. All right, now look. I didn't say the amount, right? So if it's less than $25,000, he can file it now in Justice of the Peace court, or he can file it in Texas the county court, because remember our county court's a civil or civil district court, depending on the amount in controversy. No quick answers. Next. Calvin files a medical malpractice case in civil district court and loses. He appeals to the Court of Appeals and loses. What's next? Excellent. Texas Supreme Court. And let me just tell you another thing. Just because you file an appeal in the Texas Supreme Court does not mean that the Supreme Court's going to hear it. They have a meeting. They look and see if it's well, I guess they're all worthy. I think I'd just rather say whether or not it has a question of law involved of state significance, not just because you're mad because the jury didn't rule in your favor. All right? So just because you file doesn't mean you're going to get heard. Next.
So does that occur a lot?
Of course. They only hear about 30 cases each session, and the session goes from September until May. Yeah.
The rest of the year they're off?
Well, they're writing opinions. When you get up that level, they're writing 30, 40-page opinions, and those have statewide implications, not only for the level of the Court of Appeals, the 14 Court of Appeals, but for the trial courts. So it's got to be something very, very significant. All right, bonus question. A disabled and hearing impaired individual appeals a jury verdict which decided that a movie theater had not violated her rights by refusing to provide movie patrons with amplified hearing devices as required under the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. In which court is the appeal filed? Fifth what? Okay. I don't know. I like that. Okay. All right, guys. Trick question, because people will come up to you and ask you questions all the time. You've got to be listening carefully to all the facts. Okay. Even though we were in the state court system, we talked about the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act. That's a federal statute. So. No. Okay. So, which is it appeal? It will be the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals because it's federal. Well, no, you don't get a cup. A cup is only.
One more question. I answered it.
Get in, man.
I got something special for you.
Oh, God.
I got something special for you. Take care of it during the break. Okay, next. Okay, so I just wanted to spend a little time. who is George Allen? Because that's the courthouse that we go to every day. George Allen was the first African-American Dallas City Plan Commission. He was mayor pro tem for the city of Dallas. And those of us who have been here for a long time know that he fought to end housing discrimination in Dallas. So when you walk into the front of the George Allen building and after you go through security, if you look to the left, that's the picture of George Allen. Next. So what's in the George Allen courthouse? Well, we call it the civil courthouse. We have the civil district court. And if you come to the 6th floor west wing, that's where the 101st is, my court. We've got the county courts at law, civil, and the family courts. I didn't put an extra block because they're so special. The Dallas Court of Appeals is actually in the George Allen Courthouse. It's on the 2nd floor, but you know, these are the let's say these are the trial courts that more than likely you would visit. So next. You might have asked, how are we going to take a tour of George Allen? No, I don't have that kind of budget where we could take a bus, but we've got a video for you. And then we'll take our break. And hopefully
We'd like to welcome you to the George L. Allen Sr. Court Building in downtown Dallas. Located at 600 Commerce Street. Open from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. We hope you enjoy your visit, and this video will help you get around the building and answer any questions you may have. As you enter the building, you will first see the grand lobby and make your way through security. Elevators can take you to any of the floors you may need to go. As we start off in the basement, you will find a few services. The Records District Clerk, Family, Civil, and Tax Cases. The Records Office is mainly family law related. For example, when a divorce decree is finalized. Collections is also in the basement. Court costs can get paid here for family, civil, and tax cases. Copies of child support documents are made here for $1 per page. You can also find a mother's lounge in the basement and the sheriff sales property auction room. Property auctions are held every first Tuesday of the month in the morning. On the first floor, there are several services that are available. First floor clerks. This is where you file a pleading that has a fee attached. Any assurance of a writ, citation, or notice is filed in this district clerk department as well. This department handles pleadings and insurance services for district court and family court, slip and fall, liability, healthcare accidents, and property issues. Once the case is filed on the first floor, it goes to the clerks on the third floor to give to the court coordinators. On the first floor, the central jury room is where prospective jurors will congregate for selection into the jury pool. Domestic relations, child support is found in Suite 105. A passport office is also on the first floor. Elevators or the escalator may be used to go to the above floors. On the second floor, the law library is found. The Court of Appeals is on the second floor. Family court services are on the second floor for services such as custody, evaluations for the court, child custody, medications, and adoption studies. On the third floor, child support issues are resolved in the IV-D courts 1, 2, and 3. Associate judges and temporary orders and CPS are on the third floor, along with the jail that's still in use. Fourth floor is dedicated to family courts, divorce, child custody, DBA, family law section, TPO orders, and family custody. On the seventh floor, you will find the old abandoned jail, along with the substance abuse, felony punishment facility. People meet there with their probation officers and judges once a week. Substance abuse and counselors are on staff. If you need help at any time, directories can be found to help you find a courtroom or office. enjoy your time at the George L. Allen Courthouse.
All right, 5-minute break, some coffee, and I think we've got some water over here. We'll get started. Bathrooms, go through the double doors to the right. All right, good, good.
I'm on a couple of boards, not city boards, but just other organizations. It's still working. And county actors formed an organization, helped us with forming an organization called the Community Leadership Coalition. So what we do is we meet every month on the second Saturday. We bring in homeowners association presidents from various crime fighting throughout this week. We come together and talk about common issues and try to figure out how we can get a result. Yeah, I know I miss y'all. I miss y'all. So where are you from? Oh, okay. So you're on Jefferson? Okay. Well, it pays to come to this. I came to the one at Holland Hill Library some years ago. And, but I could only come to 2 of them because it interfered with another meeting. This time time I said was good, all in one page, so I didn't report it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember when I was gonna ask her how her mom was doing. No, I need to know. I work with an organization called a community leadership, and it's people who talk about, come on, and what we need to do is, we need to share each other's information. So if I know somebody that's a plumber, and I think his work was good, I'm gonna call my friend, or if my friend is looking for somebody, I keep those people as a certain parentheses. Because if we don't do it, hey, we're not gonna make it.
Right, so, yeah, very self-conscious about like you gonna call me fussy.
Well, I won't tell nobody.
You know him from me. She used to be. Yeah, okay. He always calling me Mama,
And I saw Molly after long, so every now and then oh yeah, the law, that's where exactly his name. That's where it is. That was a smart move. Oh, like, down there on the same family, displaced parents. So they decided to go down there and
that's great. I did not know that. So she's down there.
Yes. Oh, she'll be so glad.
Good talking to you.
Same here. Okay, all right.
Just love to be there.
Saturday, okay, yeah, you can get a Friday.
Okay, I know you've enjoyed your break, but I do have a surprise for you.
Guys, let's get started. Oh, good. We've got some iced tea. We've got some water and juice. One of the great things about the Citizen Civil Academy is I've taken it all over Dallas County, and everywhere where I go, I invite the elected officials for your area to come in. I invited over 9, only 2 responded. But the first elected official to respond to me was Commissioner Commissioner Daniels of District Number 1. She's always out and about. She really cares about her community because she did respond and say, yes, I will stop by. So I'm going to give Commissioner Daniel, and I will time you about 5 minutes just to introduce yourself and to let your constituents know that you're here. And thanks for coming. Guys, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much. I am so happy to be here, first of all. I am your Dallas County Commissioner. You go, what does the County Commissioner do anyway? Well, we do public health, public safety, run all the elections, collect your taxes, do roads and bridges, and a lot of other fun things. Have an emphasis on public health, public safety, that's Parkland, clinics, West Nile, testing of all kinds of things. It's the court system. It's our county jail. Today has just over 5,400 inmates. We try to do the best we can for the inmates who are there, with a lot of attention on jail reform right now, criminal justice reform, making sure that people stay there only as long as they should stay there, for one thing. And secondly, doing an assessment very early on to evaluate their mental health, physical health, ability to pay situations, and the risk factor of their crime. So really working at a variety of issues that I think have a huge impact on individuals. I am so pleased that the good judge is doing this kind of a training. In fact, I've done a number of these over the years also, because it's been a long time since each of us, or it has been for me, took civics. Remember what civics was? I don't think they teach it anymore. But what it is showing us how to be better involved, to make that involvement count. And so I am so pleased to Pastor Slater for opening up his place for us, because that means a lot. The good judge doing this, but then all of you taking time out of your day to be here, because I know that first of all it makes a difference. And we all say, does it make a difference if one person does something? Yes, it does. It really does. There was a time when I was on my own crusade, I did not want to hear sexist jokes. And so I would just say, when someone told me, I was in hearing of that kind of a joke, I just said, that's not very funny. And people stopped telling those kind of jokes around me. Does it make a difference? I think it can make a difference. So I just wanted to say thank you. You also know that I'll probably be back. I've been here before, and you're not done with me yet, because I'm not done yet. There's a lot of good things going on in Dallas County with the help of a lot of people all pulling in the same direction. But we're not done on criminal justice reform. You know that. We're not done on looking at behavioral health and what we can do with mental health. We're not done yet with, I'm going to crusade on saying that public buildings don't have to be ugly. And part of that is, I don't know if you've been to the Crowley building recently, but we really made an effort, first of all, to clean it up, to make it easier to get around by better signage, to have landscaping outside so that you felt welcome when you came for a variety of reasons. But those are the kinds of things that I do and that I want to continue doing, because I have the commitment that each of us can do what we can do to make the place a better place. My mom is still sitting on my shoulder. She's always right there saying, you better leave it better than how you found it, right? So that's our commitment. Thank you very much, and my 5 minutes are over.
Thank you. Sure, please, please stay and take a look. Now let's get started with next. And like you guys said, I invited 9, Commissioner Daniel and our school board, Aisha Wilson, she'll be here sometime, Aisha Davis, and she said she'd be here. But other than that, that's all I'm going to say. All right. Okay, so once you get a case, we're going to talk about burden of proof, because people always, what do you hear about on television all the time? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, that's not so. Please continue. Believe it or not, there are different burdens of proof. We've got reasonable suspicion, probable cause, preponderance of the evidence, clear and convincing evidence, the presumption of evidence, and then all the way over beyond a reasonable doubt, which we find in criminal cases. But I just wanted you to know that they're different. Just because it's not on television doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Next. So in civil cases, the burden of proof is preponderance of the evidence. Next. By that we mean 51%. They don't have to hit a home run, just ever so slightly, that the greater weight of the evidence. Now I know someone had a question in there, how come people get struck for jury service? I never get selected. Well, we have a saying among the lawyers that say if you talk, you walk, and if you don't talk, you stay. So I had a car wreck case, and really this attorney was masterful, and he was asking the jury panel, can you apply preponderance of the evidence? If you saw a picture of a car accident and it just had a dent, could you award my client, let's say, $50,000? Or could you do 51%, or would you have to have more damages? Everyone said more damages, and he said, even if the judge said preponderance of the evidence, 51%, everyone raised their hands, and then I took the lawyers back and I said, we got a busted panel. Thank you guys for participating, but they will lead you down the primrose path, because I was hoping that someone would say, well, I would, but if the judge told me it was 51%, I'd follow it. But that's what we want, following. And maybe these people were just absolutely being honest. But in a civil case, you don't need to hit a home run. You just have to halfway get there. Preponderance of the evidence, 51%. Next. So in a criminal case, what you hear is beyond a reasonable doubt, because they have that, remember that wall, that presumption of evidence? You've got to be absolutely sure, because you're going to take away someone's liberty. Next. So this was my favorite I used to use when I tried jury cases. You got to be totally clear. That's a knockout. You know it's there. No doubt about it. Now that is beyond a reasonable doubt. Next. Okay, anatomy of a lawsuit. What happens? We're going to go through this quickly. You want to file a lawsuit? Next. All right, so you saw in the video they said, well, this is on the first floor. This is where you go file. Unless you're filing pro se, everything's done electronically now. The lawyer does not have to leave his office. They e-file it, all right? It goes into the system, and then the cases get distributed and randomly categorized, sent to the judges. So we have no idea. I just look up Commissioner Daniel, and I get 100 new cases a week. I wish you could stop that flow, but they keep flowing in. You know, they talk all the time. The vanishing jury trial, I'm in jury trial every week. So I don't know what they're talking about. We're very busy in the civil courts. Next. So the lawsuit's filed by the plaintiff. That's the person who initiates the lawsuit. And then the lawsuit gets served. Have you heard the process server knocks on your door service? Now, some people think, well, if I just don't answer the door, the process server will go away. No. They might not go away, but they might go away that day, because we make them do about 3 or 4 chances. They file a motion for the judge saying, Judge, these people won't answer their door. We've done the research. We know their driver's license is there. So I will sign an order, which is called a motion for order for substitute service. They can slap that petition on your door in that service. All right? But I also, just to make sure, and I like to be very fair, I make sure they also send it to you certified mail, so we've got proof. Because I know sometimes the rain, or if you get the winds that we had a couple of months ago, it could blow it on off and you would have never seen it. So I make sure that all the orders going through my court, they also send it to you by certified mail. So if you don't answer that door knock, do not think you can just ignore that lawsuit. That lawsuit will follow you. And if you don't answer, they can get a default judgment. Whatever they're asking for, they'll get it. So you might as well face the music because it's not going to go away. Next. Oh, I'm sorry, lawsuit started, let me file an answer. Please, okay, go back. Please answer your lawsuit. Depending on the court means a time when you have to file an answer. All right, so in district court, it's 20 days Monday next. But when you get served with that citation, it will tell you. So it's 20 days Monday next. So suppose you get served on a Wednesday. 20 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Well, the 20th day is Tuesday. So in Texas, it's 20 days Monday next. Your answer will be due on that Monday. You know, other places it's just 20 days. But if it's in district court, it's 20 days Monday next. But you always have to be very careful because next. In the Justice of the Peace Court, yes.
When they do that, a lot of times I ask, do they include Saturdays and Sundays because they consider
Yes.
those business days? So
No, it's not business days. I said 20 days Monday next. Very good. Someone's saying, is it 20? No, the statute says 20 days. All right? Now, but be careful because if it's Justice of the Peace, it's not 20 days Monday next. It's only 14 days. Read your citation because depending on where the court, which the petition is filed, depends on when your answer's due. All right? If it's Justice of the Peace, it's 14 days. It's not 20 days Monday next. Next. All right, so once a lawsuit's filed and you filed your answer, we have a period of discovery. Requests for admissions. They might do depositions, interrogatories. All right, next. Request for production. Again, has anyone been in a lawsuit? You'll know depositions are horrible. They sit and ask you questions, and your lawyer can only give 3 objections. It's painful. And they've got someone videotaping you, and it's hot, and oh, it's horrible. Then your lawyer will say, give me all this information, and you'll say, well, that's not relevant. That's not the standard. As long as that information will lead to relevant evidence, you got to turn over everything to your lawyer. And it's really important. Next. Now, based on all these responses, sometimes parties will file summary judgment. That's going to prevent you. Okay, thank you. All right. We were playing bingo, but all right. So I'm going to get through this real quick. Summary judgment, where the attorney will say, look, judge, we've gone through all this discovery, we've got all this evidence. Don't waste your time. You can make a decision now on this case. And a lot of times, for example, when I told you about the slip and falls, just because it's a matter of law, summary judgment is usually granted. So you will never get to trial. Summary judgments are very important. In fact, in your packet of information, if you are representing yourself, it's a 3-page document called Representing Yourself, What You Need to Know. Excellent, excellent blueprint of what goes on in the civil courts. So please, if you find yourself, and they've got a great paragraph on summary judgment that I don't have time to go through, but it's absolutely, it's the gem. I even give it to baby lawyers just so they know. Next. So after you have a trial, one thing people don't understand, depending on the court, that will determine the number of jurors. In district court, it's 12, although the parties can agree to have 6 jurors. But in county court, even though they're also hearing civil cases, there are only 6 jurors. So when your attorney files a lawsuit, strategically, you need to talk to them about, are we going to do this in county court where we only have 6 jurors, or do we want to do it in district court? Very big. Another big difference, next. Yes?
Why is that?
More people. More people, more diverse panel. I'd take 12 over 6 any day. But again, depending on the case, that's why it's so important to be involved in your lawsuit. Don't just say, okay, I got a lawyer, he's going to handle it all. No, 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 no. You need to be on every part of the strategy. Because there are some personal injury lawyers who only want to file in county court. But the one thing that, remember we talked about the burden of proof, preponderance of the evidence? When we get a jury verdict, it does not have to be unanimous in a civil court. In district courts, we get verdicts upon 11 or 10. Does not have to be unanimous. And that's another thing. In the county courts, you have just 5 people. No, alternates, only listen to the case. Once the jury begins its deliberations, the alternates go, unless they're needed. Have you been an alternate before? Okay, an alternate, or were you part of the panel? Okay, that you didn't even make it up to the courtroom, possibly, right? So what she's asking about, she said alternate jurors. That's really not the definition I was using. So you get your juror summons, right? So if you go to George Allen, they put you in a big room that you saw in the video, maybe about 500 people. Then they start calling numbers, which means in my case, we have 44 people to come up to my court in order to pick 12. So 44 people come in my court for what's called voir dire. Voir dire is French, which means to speak the truth. And so the attorneys will ask you questions about your beliefs and attitudes. Then from that, we select 12 individuals. So I thought in big cases, like cases that I know are gonna go 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we'll pick, instead of just 12, we'll pick 2 alternates. They'll sit through the entire trial. They never know that they're alternates till when I send the jurors back to the jury room. It's like, you two get to stay back. And then they find out that they were just an alternate. She was using the term alternate when you're just in the big jury room before you go upstairs. So, and please do not think that if you never get out the jury room that you've wasted your time. Sometimes cases will settle just when the judge comes out and goes, okay guys, ready to go to trial? All right, go get me a jury. Then all of a sudden they start talking. Sometimes once the jury panel is outside my courtroom, they've settled cases. The fact that you're there makes a difference. And also, as I tell people, please comply with your juror summons, because wouldn't you want you on a case? So that is one of your most important responsibilities as a citizen, is to do jury duty. And it's important that our jury panels reflect Dallas County. And I tell you, if you come in my court and we have like qualifications, and someone says, oh, I've got child care, man, I ask you 300 questions. By the time you get through, you want to sit on the jury panel because you don't want to go through it. I ask a whole bunch of questions. People sometimes will say, well, I don't really speak English that good. Well, what language does your supervisor speak to you in? Did you have a training manual? Because it is important. I want a jury panel that reflects Dallas County. And so I know when people like raise their hands, oh, Judge, I got this and that, I'm not playing it. Because if I just have all of one race on a jury panel, that doesn't reflect Dallas County. I want diversity of people, diversity of opinions. When you have a diversity of opinions, you're going to get the right jury verdict. So please, when you get there, please take it seriously. And if you want you on a jury panel, please show up. And you can't get fired for showing up for jury duty. If you do, as the judge will tell you, I got 2 lawyers who will represent you real quick. Sorry, that's one of my soapboxes. I am so sorry. I just get so impassioned about it, and I try so many cases. We're usually in a jury trial every week, and I see it so many times. In fact, one of the questions that someone said was, why don't minorities get selected? I'm sorry. Sometimes minorities want to get out. Oh, I got work. Well, I'm sorry, we're all at work. That doesn't work. I mean, people have a hard time in my court getting out. I am just not going to let you get out of jury duty or being selected. My panel better reflect Dallas County. And even if it's not you and the lawyers try to play games, I don't let them play games. Now, in the criminal courts, you hear stuff about called Batson challenges, which is after the judges and the attorneys have talked and we've selected the jurors. One side can look at it and say, wait a second, the other side has impermissibly struck minorities. You usually find that in criminal cases. I allow Batson challenges in civil cases, and we've actually replaced prospective veneer panels, the members, to put them on the jury panel because one side struck impermissibly a minority. Now, you won't find very many civil judges at George Allen doing it, but again, I am committed that my jury panel looks like Dallas County. Yes, your question?
Yes, ma'am. So, Judge, you said you're picked for the huge room that's downstairs. That's randomly picked.
Yes.
And then once your name is picked to go up to the courtroom.
Yes.
That's when the interview.
The voir dire. Yes.
And then they decide on who's.
Then we decide through a series of questions. Yes.
So now, to come from the big room to the courtroom, how are those numbers picked?
They say randomly.
Okay. Until after the review, and then you know.
Yeah, you don't know until you've been up to the courtroom. And voir dire, I can tell you guys, depending on the case, it can go anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days. And a lot of times, we want to keep you there. So we've had voir dire jury selection until midnight. So when people start saying, oh, Judge, 3 o'clock, my kid. Okay, well, I think you better call Uber for them. I'm not letting you go. Bring sweaters and food, because a lot of times you go out, I got to talk to the lawyers, we send the veneer panel back. It's a slow process, but it has to be that way. It has to be careful so that we are selecting the 12 best individuals to hear that case. So, you know, I know it's frustrating. I tell people to bring their knitting, bring their books, keep yourself occupied. Yes?
I used to say, you choose 2 extra alternates?
Not every time. She used the term alternate, so I explained it. We only use alternates when we're having 3 or 4 week trials.
I'm about to try with them right now, that they had to dismiss one of the juries, so I know they have alternates.
Okay, he had a question about the Amber Geyer case that one of the jurors, I guess, had to leave. I'm sure that the judge who is handling that case is incredible. She's brilliant. She's one of the best in Dallas County, so I'm sure they did have. But I don't think on television they're showing pictures of the jury panel. So, yeah, I don't know. And I've been at work. Commissioner Daniel, I've been at work, so I'm not watching the trial. All right? Okay.
I wanted to ask something. Now, I heard you say that if they don't come, I mean, that people don't, when they come to jury, they can't get fired.
Right.
But several people, companies don't pay. Is there a way that they could, like, if they're absent, even though they're doing jury duty, they're not going to pay them?
Well, Dallas County pays you $6 for the first day and $40 for the others.
Yeah, because I know, and I'm saying this because I pastor a church, and I know people who are living on low already payments, what they make it from their jobs is low. And then they have kids that they have to take care of, and not to get paid for it, they go into jury duty. That can create a huge issue.
Commissioner Daniel, can we increase?
No, but
Part of it is following state law.
Right.
she's at the job.
The jobs. No, and I just said, I was asking Commissioner Daniel, since she's a county commissioner, if they could raise it. But I think what she's saying is there's a law.
The first point of it is, by law, jury duty is part of our duties. And so there is that responsibility of our employers. But I do understand there are a variety of responsibilities that are allowed for.
And we will take those up, you know. Yeah.
That you can address beforehand, even before you get to the point of being assigned.
Yeah.
So you already are assigned.
The worst thing is for people to wait, because I even give an opportunity after we've gone through qualification exemptions. I say, if there is any reason why you think you can't serve, we'll talk to you in private. And so then they can make their plea.
That's kind of what
It depending on the judge, but as Commissioner Daniel said, even before you get your juror summons notice 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, so that's the time to call up. And some of the people in juror services do have discretion. Sometimes they'll say, come talk to the judge. And I've heard, I'm not going to tell you my secrets, because then all of you'll know how to get out of jury duty in my court. So I'm not going to tell you. All I'm going to say is that
when I'm trying to help someone, because a lot of people come, because I retired 35 years
Wow.
in Dallas County.
All right,
So,
congratulations.
Even though I was in the criminal side, there are people who come to me and still ask those questions. And
Right.
that's kind of where I want to know, can we, to say, well, you go, and because I tell them, you can't get out of, you can't just walk out of jury duty.
Right.
You got to go. You got to at least do something.
Right.
Say something.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
I know you can put it off another day, but
Right.
even another day can cause you
Right.
to get paid on your job. But they need to know that, they can go. And a lot of people try to look over it because they're scared that, well, if I don't go to work, I won't get paid. And if I don't go to jury duty, then that's probably less consequences. But
But it's just, I always tell people, I said, but if they got in trouble or their family member, would you want your perspective represented on that jury panel? And it's just next to, yeah.
But I would just like to second that, because we work very hard in Dallas County to make everything that we do look like Dallas County, because it is so important for me, because I want to, what the good judge said about, we lose off when we don't have representation from everybody. And so that random selection And we should try everything, and I know that where I sit, who we hire, who are vendors, who we buy from, who I appoint, all of those things, I'm very glad to hear that the judge is very conscious of how we do business. I think it's so important to have all of our voices
Yeah.
there. So thank you very much for the way you do business.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's important to me. All right, good discussion. Yay, yes.
Okay, concerning the jury duty, I just want to make sure, because I've heard something. Once you've been, you receive a mail saying that you've been, you just
Summoned, yeah.
twice, is there a time frame where you
I am so glad you asked that question, because guess what? It depends who summoned you. You can get summoned from the federal government, totally separate. County, totally separate. The municipalities, totally separate. So like sometimes people will complain, oh, judge, this is like the second time. I was like, okay, were you at the big, I call the federal government the big house. I go, were you at the big house at Earl Cabell? I said, well, I guess your voter registration number looks really good. But that's your duty, guys. It's your duty, and we're constantly looking at ways to prove that. For example, my girlfriend's a judge in New York, and they have one big pool, like the name. Once they pull it out, they put it in this pool, and they wait till it's all over, because we do see times where people have been called 3 or 4 times for Dallas County, and then there's some people that come up to me, how do I get to even be called? And I'm like, it's all random. So I think one thing that we as a district court judges need to talk about, how we can look at other jurisdictions, how they make sure then that everyone gets a chance to participate. But then you always have to just make sure, as going back to the beginning, federal or state, which level.
Let me ask you this, if you have a conflict, you got called by 2 different...
If you get called by 2 different courts at the same time, then no, I think I would call both. Call both, and I'd probably even send a certified letter and go, where do you want me to be? And let the jury people figure it out for each court. Okay? But if you've hit, man, you might win the lottery. Next question.
I just wanted to say that the clerk's office will work with you, because I had a big project going on at work before, and I called in and let them know about it, and so they just
they change. Yeah, they reschedule. Yeah.
So Judge,
Yes.
you said what happens if a person just totally ignores it? Is there a warrant? Or, I mean, what was the process of that?
No, there was a secret jury duty court before I got on the bench, but the district judges decided not to do that. That made it a negative, and we try to make the process better so you want to show up. So that's part of the reasons why I created the Citizen Civil Academy, because once you learn about the system, then you're not afraid about going to jury duty. You know what it's about. We want it to be positive. We don't want you to be threatened with jail or a big fine. Now, some jurisdictions have done it, and it hasn't been very successful.
So what is I heard the pastor saying that a lot of times they want to weigh their options. So what would be the consequences if they didn't show up?
Denying someone their due process, denying the input of a diverse panel.
what would be the legal consequences?
Right now, there's none. But I mean, you have a responsibility. There's no jury duty court. All right, next. Yeah.
I had a friend that did not go to jury duty, and the way she got punished was that she was on call, and she had to call in every Friday for a couple of weeks.
That's a federal system. That's not Dallas County. That's a federal system. And sometimes in the federal system, they don't. After you've registered in, they'll say, we will let you know when you come in. But that's the federal courts, and I don't know anything about it. All I know is Dallas County.
Do they still do standby jury? Dallas County used to do standby jury. They would have a certain time for that.
Okay. All I know is when I have a jury trial, we tell them we want them up there at 9:45, and I better see those bodies outside my courtroom at 9:45. All right? Yes.
An age limit for all of the courts?
No, well, what it is, there's an exemption. You're granted an exemption to it. If you're reached the age of 70, you can claim an exemption, but it's up to you. But as I tell my jurors over 70, we want you there. We need your experience. We need your seasoning. We need your thinking. We need your input. But it's up to you. You can claim it.
That's all of them, though?
Well, when you say all of them, all I can say is for county. No, I can't say anything for federal. Federal's totally separate. I have no idea.
So a person with mental deficiency making a summons to come.
Well, if you read your juror service note, okay, guys, we're really getting behind. If you read your summons, it gives you, if you have a medical condition that prohibits you, you can raise that with jury services. Jury services, it's not your enemy. Those are nice people. They're good people. So don't expect them to read your mind. Call them. Call them and ask. Because it seems a lot of times people create an issue. Oh, no, I can't. Just call. They'll work with you. Like the lady said, she had a project. Okay, quickly. All right, so after either the judge or the jury renders a verdict, then it gets reduced to a judgment, and we've had appeals. I had several questions on, well, what's a post-lien judgment, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to give you some legal resources. I can't give you guys legal information. I can give you the legal resources. Quickly, next. All right, with true or false, we're just going to do a couple of those, ma'am, in the back, and then we're going to move on quickly because I do want to cover a couple more things. True or false? Discovery is limited to admissible evidence. False. Excellent, right, because it's any evidence that will reasonably lead to admissible evidence. Admissibility is determined at trial, not at the time of discovery. Next. True or false? Next. If you are sued, you must answer the lawsuit by the 20th day. False. It depends on the court. Next. It could be JP court, and then it's not the 20th day. In district court, it's 20 days, Monday next. In JP court, it's 14 days. True or false? There's no fee to file a lawsuit. You know that's false. And again, there was a question that someone submitted. It depends on the level of court what the filing fee is. All right, next. True or false? The burden of proof in a civil case is beyond a reasonable doubt. False, you're right. It's preponderance of the evidence. Beyond a reasonable doubt is in criminal cases when you're going to take away someone's life or liberty. Next. True or false? In a civil case, the jury may reach a verdict with only 10 of the 12 jurors. Well, if it's a district court, then it can be 10. If you're talking about a county court, you're going to only have 6 jurors, and then you can do it on 5. All right, next. True or false? As long as you do not file an answer to the lawsuit, nothing will happen to you. False. Very good. All right, next.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to quickly go through. In fact, why don't we just start going through the handouts? In your handouts, again, we've talked briefly about pro se representation. Pro se is Latin, which means to represent yourself. Depending on the level of court will determine whether or not you should do this. Let me get a handout. So, thank you. Thanks for coming. Guys, let's give her another applaud. We appreciate you.
Yes, it does make a difference.
Okay, so we're going to go through these legal resources real quick. After the representing yourself, the 4-page, we've got something where now we're at Van Sickle. This is the Family Law Clinic by SMU students. They have a clinic as well as a self-help desk. All right, the clinic is where they will actually handle your case, but it gets filled very quickly. They are already filled for the fall, but they have a self-help desk, guys. This is free, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on these days at the George Allen Courthouse. All right, you guys. The next page, best kept secret in Dallas County, the lawyer referral service. Does anyone know that you can talk to a lawyer for 30 minutes for $20? If you just called a lawyer up and asked for a consultation, you're talking about $300 or $400. Dallas Bar Association. I just got a text from a girlfriend of mine in New York. Hey, my girlfriend needs a lawyer in Dallas for such and such. I'm texting her back. Best kept secret in town. $20, $30 for 30 minutes. And now they're doing it that you don't even have to go to the lawyer's office. They're doing it online. Best kept, and anyone can use it. It's not income determinative. You know, if you go to legal services, they have to check your income and see if you fit. But this is, guys, this is manna from heaven. It's free. I just found this last week. You can tell I get really excited. Okay, so if you don't want to talk to someone, Texas Law Help has live chat, and these are the times you can have a live chat about your legal issue. Good, thank you. All right, so live chat, guys, and this has the dates and times, and you can do a live chat on any legal issue. This is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Free legal advice. So when someone says, oh, I got a legal issue, I can't afford it, and I go, well, do you go to Starbucks? Yeah. Did you go to Starbucks 3 times a week? Yeah. Well, you've spent $20. Why don't you do the lawyer referral service and talk to a lawyer for 30 minutes for $20? Oh. Now I can tell them, did you try the online law chat? No. I said, I didn't tell you to go downtown and hire a lawyer for $1,000 an hour. I said, just get some advice.
So online chat is not...
It's the directions are on there. It just started.
I mean, it's either civil or criminal, or we're strictly civil today.
We're civil today. You can check. I don't believe they would do criminal. It doesn't say. If you just read the 2 pages that I gave you, or you can call. I'm assuming that it's civil, but you never know. Usually a lot of these free helps. Now, you've got an issue, right? Now, you guys, people get all emotional. I had a friend call me, went around the barn. So before you go get legal help, guys, there's something called Texas Law Help. They've got an index on everything. So if it's family, divorce, and children, read up what the law says so you know how to put your facts. Name change, criminal records, traffic, house and apartments, health benefits, money and debt. So if you're getting sued by your credit card company, this is the best information ever. And it's free, online, Texas Law Help. That's why I spent an extra money just to give you all the types of records. And if you decide you want to represent yourself pro se, if you look on the last page, they have forms. Because let me tell you, the one best way to lose credibility with a judge, if you're filing in my court and you're talking about the federal statutes, and it's like, oh man, I know where it's going here. At least give yourself some credibility, and it's free. You got a computer? I know you're watching Netflix, but there's legal information for free. And the most important thing, I love this, I found this. So you've got an issue, you've done your research, 2 pages, how to hire a lawyer. This is the best. I mean, I give this out to everyone that I know. Get your facts straight. As I always tell my friends, take the emotions out, give the facts. But these are 2 pages, great outline. Give this to anyone because this really helps you know how to find a lawyer. And then when you meet with that lawyer, you're going to meet with that lawyer for 30 minutes for $20. Please do not waste your time and start talk about how that horrible husband of yours, blah, 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 blah. Get the facts. We were married this long. You know, we have 4 issues. Save the emotion because lawyers are smart. They'll let you go on and be all emotional. And then after half hour, okay, this goes back up to my $500 an hour. Make sure you have your specific questions. So it's like, yes, it's nice to meet you, but these are my questions. Bam, bam, bam. You've got to be organized. And this really helps a lot. Quickly, we're running out of time. We talked earlier about people getting stopped. If you have children, children never tell you when you have a ticket. Spouses never tell you when they have a ticket. You find it in the car stacked on the side. So the best way, and we've given you the absolute websites for them. Again, check and see if you have tickets at the Highway Patrol, which is state if you're on Interstate 20. The next is the failure to appear. So if you get a ticket somewhere and you don't appear on that first court date. But again, guys, I'll tell you, it's only as good, the system is only as good as those who input it. It's not 100%, but it's a good way. Lastly, a new state law change, and again, I thought it was so important. I gave you 5 pages on it. The driver responsibility program, which gave surcharges when if you didn't pay your insurance or didn't pay your tickets, then they would punitively put like $1,000. People would owe $2,000 or $5,000 and suspend their licenses. Well, the legislature, again, it matters who's in your legislature, repealed it. it. And so I have information, question and answers that I thought was really important because someone knows someone here, the pastors who are here, you've got someone in your church who got stuck with the surcharges. So this is the information here, yes.
So they said, when I called, I don't have surcharge, but I was checking because a letter came to my house, and they're saying prior to September.
Okay, ma'am, that's why I gave you all of this. I am not an expert. I don't handle any traffic laws, but I knew that it was important enough for all of you guys to have that information. Here's a frequently asked questions. I'm just giving the information here. Yeah, just give it right here. Anyone else? Well, we've got some wonderful barbecue sandwiches for you all. Thank you very much. There's always more than what we can cover. I will be doing the Citizen Civil Academy again on October 13th. I was invited by the Dallas Masjid. It's their mosque, the Beacon of Light Community Center, on Sunday, October 13th, and we're doing it in the afternoon at 2 p.m. On Sunday, October 13th. So we go to various communities, and the mosque, they use their mosque on Saturday. So they said, will you come on Sunday? I'm like, sure. I'll come anytime. I'll come talk anywhere. We're going to share that information. As you see, there's some people who've been here who come to our different CCAs, and it's always something new because I'm constantly looking at the internet to see what new information, what new sources. I did something in Houston last week, and I saw this law chat. I'd never seen it before, so I got very excited. So we're constantly adding information. Please, finally, session survey is so important. It helps us make the Citizen Civil Academy relevant and touch the issues. Again, this is totally civil. Tell us the best part, worst part. Leave it at the back. Also, those of you who are here, if you did not register online, please make sure we have your address because we have certificates of completion. If we don't have your mailing address, then you won't get one. Like a couple of people registered for 3 or 4 people. So you put it on the back of the sign-in sheet. So we make sure that we have your mailing address. Please do not look for it in your mailing address next week, okay? It will not get there next week. Give me about 30 days and I will get there. But I just want to give you the right expectations. It will not be there this week. And maybe it might be 2 weeks, but you will get it. Anything else that I forget?
I have a question. What, if I may ask, what caused you to start doing these sessions?
Okay, wonderful.
5 years.
Yes. All right, what made me start? Well, when I ran for judge, people come up to me, don't put me in jail if I vote for you. And I go, I'm going to be a civil judge, and I don't put people in jail. I mean, there are judges who don't do that. So I kept doing it. I said, so then, and if any of you listen and I have a recording, I put that in my advertising on the radio. I said, when I get elected, I'm going to create a program called the Citizen Civil Academy to educate citizens about the civil court process. And so I did. So I got sworn in January of 2015. October 2015, we had our first session in the courthouse. And each year we do it in the spring and fall of each year. Students as young as 6, as seasoned as 92. And I don't get funding for this. This comes from my campaign funds. I take no county funds, no federal or state funds, because it can't be a 501c3. So I pay for it with my campaign funds. It is my gift back to the citizens of Dallas County. So that's why I do, and it's a love for them. And I just want to get, there's so much information out there that people don't know. Because I think the best kept secret, you talk to a lawyer, $20 for 30 minutes? Amazing. So it's all about getting information. So hopefully when you do get that jury summons, you come down and maybe you'll see me. I will give you a pinky wave and say, hey, even though I'm busy. Good question. Anyone else? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, safe afternoon. We've got some barbecue sandwiches for you. Do we have time for a quick CCA picture? And you can leave your surveys in the back. All right, yeah. And we've got a CC. Can we take it? Do we have time for a quick picture? Let's see. Yeah. We traditionally have like a CCA picture, and we've got a wonderful CCA cake. If I don't see you guys at the mosque, I hope to see you in the spring and fall of each year. Oh, our website, www.ccadallas.com. Thank you.